Hi everyone, and welcome to our next lesson. And in this lesson we will discuss CSS basic properties. Now, the properties that we already worked with was the box model and things like that before. But what we're going to do now is we're going to discuss the margins, the paddings, and all that kind of stuff. Just the basic ones that you're going to use almost every day, all the time. So let's get started. All right, let me just quickly see. I'll go to our index. Let's go to class, this class 1. Let's go to class 1. So this, our declaration right there. So let's say margin. On margin, what we can do, you can type in actually margin like this, and then 2 rem. Now, let's, instead of rem, let's call this pixels, so 20 pixels. Now what this does is it actually gives us padding right, margin right around. So basically, let's quickly go to Firefox. So let's open it with Live Server. Alright, so now we've got our window here, and then we obviously press F12 for the development tools. So let's make it a little bit bigger. So as you can see right there, this one. As you can see, the padding, the margin, the yellow part is right around. So let's make it a little bit bigger as well. So as you can see, the margin is right around that box. Okay, so let's quickly go to VS Code again. Now, actually, what this symbolizes, actually, if you write it like this, that's kind of just shortened. So margin top, 20 pixels, margin bottom, 20 pixels, margin right, 20 pixels, 250, so 20 pixels, and obviously margin left is 20 pixels. So basically, this part right here, this part right there is actually this, like that. Now, what you can do, another shorthand. Now, let's say you don't want everything to have 20 pixels, because if you start writing a lot of code, you kind of don't want to do this. You don't want to write everything like a lot of code. It's just unnecessary code, basically. So what you can do, let's say you want top and bottom to be 20 pixels, and you want left and right to be 40 pixels. So this is how you can write the shorthand like this. So top and bottom, the first one, the second one is left and right. So let's quickly see how that looks like in VS Code. So let's open it with Live Server. Go to this one. So open Live Server. Now, as you can see, what we have right here. Let's go to our property there. Go to 1. Now, if you can see, you will see we have a bigger margin on the left and the right. And if we come to our box model, you can see our 40 pixels right here and our 40 pixels right there, 20 top and bottom. But what if you don't want them all to be the same for whatever reason you might have? So let's quickly show you how to do that in the same line. You see, this is our CSS right there for that one. 20 and the 40. Now let's go back to VS Code and even show you the line in your style CSS. Okay, so let's go to CSS. Alright, so what we have here now, let's say we don't want them to be just left and right. This is top and bottom, left and right. Okay, so let's quickly delete this. Alright, now how this works is the first one will be, this is top, This is right, this is bottom, and this is left. So basically work clockwise. Just think of it clockwise. Right. So the first one we're going to make, just to make it distinguishable, 20 pixels. That's the top. This is the right side. So we're going to make that 60 pixels. And then we're going to make this 40 pixels. And then the right, we're going to do 80 pixels, just to distinguish them from one another. Right, so let's go to VS Code again. Let's see how it looks like. Sorry, our browser. Right, so if we open our DevTools, make it a bit bigger, and we click on that. Now, as you can see, the top is 20. As you can see, this is our CSS. The top is 20. You can see in the box model there, 20 pixels. Right is 60. 60 there. Bottom 40. Bottom 40. 80 pixels on the left. You can see it right there. So basically you can do this all in one line. So it kind of cleans up your code a bit. Alright. So the next thing we're going to do is the pairing. Exactly the same way so that we can see it as well. Let's go to VS Code. Ultimately what you want to do is you want to keep your code clean and tidy so that you don't type too much code. If you will start developing websites, you will see why that's a necessity, is you will write lines and lines and lines of code. But anyway, so what we can do here is, well, we can put 20 pixels, top and bottom, and 40 pixels left and right. So with the margin and the padding, you can write it the exact same way, like that. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean the same pixels, but the format can be the same. So I'm just going to do the top and bottom, left and right. So let's quickly open that in our browser. Right, so we're in our browser right now. If we refresh, you will see our padding. You can see the 40 there, left and right, top and bottom, the 20. Very, very, very nice. Okay, let's move on to our next property. So we discussed margin and padding. So that is just for you guys. So as you can see right here. So if you want to explore it a bit further, you can just play around here. It doesn't save, so that you can actually see immediately what happens when you change the properties and things like that. Okay, so let's quickly go into VS Code. Alright, so brings us to our next one. It's actually if you want to change the fonts. So let's say you don't like the Times Roman font and you actually want to use your own font, your own unique font. So what you can do, so now we selected the body. So basically we selected this part right here. So everything inside the body, we want to give this font. So what you can do is you can say font family. Now what a font family means is you can select, but for us, I don't want to, so let's say Arial, Helvetica, and Sans Serif. So that is our font family. Now what these three fonts means, so why three? What it means is if the computer or the browser doesn't have an Arial font, it will switch to Helvetica, and after that Sans Serif if it doesn't find this font. Alright, so let's quickly see in our browser if it actually updated the font. So let's open it with Live Server. And as you can see, it updated our font. Let's go to F12 again. Now, as you can see on our body, it actually changed the font to Arial. But now let's say you don't want to use the system font, because basically this is like system fonts, standard fonts, and you want to use some other fonts, like something like Roboto or Leto or Poppins or any other Google fonts. So you want to include Google fonts in your website. So how do we do that? Okay, let's quickly show you. Okay, so what we do is we click right there, open a new window, and then what we do is we type in Google fonts. Let's type in Google fonts, then you'll have this window appear, and then we press Google fonts. Now what we can do is now we're gonna choose whatever font we want. I'm just gonna choose anything, but normally Roboto will be a good font to choose if you want a kind of easily readable font. It's quite nicely available on the internet, but I'm gonna choose this font that's kind of distinct. So you click on this font. Now, okay, so you actually put the characters as well. So what we can do, select styles. So what if we select the style, you see the link. So we want to choose the link part right there. So then we grab the whole, let me just make it a little bigger so you guys can see. Right. So what you do, you see on this side, you will select the link. So we just grab the link and we right click and we say copy. Then we go to VS Code. Now just above your style sheet, see this is our style sheet right there, and we paste it in that link right there. So let's just paste it in. Right, so here is the link right there. Okay, so right here, paste it in right there. And the next part that we're going to do, go back to our browser. As you can see, you see the font family CSS rules to specify the families. We click copy this part right here. Then we go back to CSS. Now, as you can see, we changed the font family to this, but now instead of that, we want to paste this in. So basically, if Google doesn't find this font, it will automatically switch to sans serif. Alright, so let's quickly see how this looks like in the browser. Alright, so open Firefox or your browser. And as you can see, we changed the font right there. And as you can see in the preview of the font, if you can see, it looks exactly the same. Alright, so let's close that window there. So that's how easy it is to change the font, but we're not finished with that yet. So let's go back to CSS. Alright, so we got our font family. And another thing that we can do with the font, we can change the font size. So you type in actually font size, and you can choose to do it in pixels, 16 pixels. 16 pixels is the standard of your, how can I put this, of your Google fonts. Let me just put it like this. So if you type in a paragraph, it will be 16 pixels. No, sorry, my mistake here. 16 pixels is actually equal to, because I actually want to transfer you guys to use a rem unit. So it's equal to 1 rem. That's actually where I'm going with this. So 16 pixels is equal to 1 rem units. From now, so if you're using 2 rem, it will be 32 pixels. But for us, we're going to start using rem units. So it's just, so if you see 1 rem, you know it is 16 pixels. The reason for that is rem units for me, it's easier to work with. In a sense, when if you, let me just go, let me just put 1 rem. Let me just do font size. No, I'm not going to do font size on the body, but I just wanted to show you all the font properties. And then the next one you can do is font weight. So the font weight, you can choose 100, you can choose 400. It depends on your font that you're using. if it supports that kind of font weight. But from 100 to 900, you can choose font weight. The next thing you can do, let's say font weight, we just want to keep it, make it 500 for now. And the next thing that we can do is font style. You can say you want it italic. Right. So this is kind of the font properties that you will normally, font size, font weight, and font style. But I don't use this a lot, so the italic, but you must just know that it is there. Right. But for us, what we're going to do is we're going to use these properties on our H1. So we're just going to say font size. We're going to make it 2 rem. So that means it's 32 pixels. And the next one is font weight. We're just going to, we can also do bold. But we don't need that now, since I think our properties font don't make use of it. So let's just quickly, I'm just quickly going to switch it over to a font so where I actually can show you guys what I mean. Just make it a little bit smaller. You see, this has got 100 font. This has got a 300. This is 400. This is a 500. And this is a 700. And this is a 900. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all the styles just to kind of show you. You probably won't need to do this, but I'm doing it right now. So I'm just going to select all the Roboto fonts, go back to VS. So instead of that font, I'm just going to switch it over to Roboto. As you can see right here, all the styling, the 900 and all that kind of stuff is in here. So we're going to switch this over to Roboto. Right, so we're just going to switch this over, change it to Roboto. Now, as you can see, I'm going to make that 900. The font weight 900 because the font that I'm using supports the 900. Okay, so let's quickly see how that looks like in the browser. As you can see, we got the Roboto font family. And if I click on the H1, you can see it's got the font weight of 900 right there. And as you can see, it's bolden quite a bit. But what you can do as well is you can go to the fonts. You see in your, just make it a little bit bigger. So as you can see in your fonts right there, you can see I'm all the way to the max of the font. But what if we change it? As you can see in a preview window right here, this is now on 200. This is on 100. So quite easily to see, because it supports all that font weights, it actually changes to it. That's quite neat. So if you want it to be font weight to be 300, this is more or less how it will look like, but it doesn't save it. It's nice to see it. And as you can see, it goes back to it. Now, if you can look at the font right here, you see the 2 rem units. How I explained earlier, if I change it to pixels, watch, it's going to be 32 pixels. So if I change it to rem, it will be 2 rem. Right. So just remember, 1 rem is 16 pixels and everything. So if you got 2, it just multiplied by 16. All right. I normally work with rem units, quite easy to work with. And yes. All right. And what you can do as well, if you want to see what kind of size you really want the font to be, you obviously just work in this window right here. And also when you do your previews, I'm kind of zoomed out 190%. Just make sure that you kind of at 100% in the window to make sure that what you see is more or less how the website is going to be on that size screen. So yes, just make sure you're at 100%. But for us, I'm just going to increase it like this so that we can actually make it quite easy for you guys to see what everything that's written down here. All right. So let's move on to our next property. I see the video gets a bit too long now. I'm going to make it in 2 parts, CSS properties. So I'm going to put this as part 1 and I'm going to do the next part as part 2. So I'm going to stop it right here. Right. And then we continue basically from this way in the next video. And then I'm just going to add the other properties as well. Thanks guys for watching. And if you like the video, please give it a like. If you dislike the video, give it a dislike. If you can put us a constructive feedback in the comment section, we really appreciate it. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter, as we want to kind of improve these videos for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.